Dennis, it's very interesting. During the Second World War, there wasn't this great talk about proportionality. We have to be proportionate with our bombing of Dresden. We have to be proportionate with our bombing of Tokyo and with Hiroshima, Nagasaki. When the Americans were fighting in Mosul and Fallujah, there wasn't too much talk of proportionality. Now, all of a sudden, there's all this talk about Israel that things have to be proportional. I find it mind boggling that when you're fighting against evil, there has to be proportion. And we're fighting against monsters that hold babies up under hospitals, knowing that the force is trying to get them won't do it because the Israelis don't want to kill innocent people, don't want to kill babies. Hamas holds babies up so that they'll die. And yet, I think we could argue a million things, but for somebody like me, that's all I need. That's all I need for moral clarity in terms of the good and the bad. But something seems very blurry now, doesn't it? Everybody's talking about proportion. They're talking about genocide. They don't really know the definition, I guess, of the word. They're talking about stolen land, and those of us that know about history know that no land was ever stolen. It was simply land carved out of the Ottoman Empire. Tell us a little bit your view of these bizarre arguments that the left has brought into this conflict.
Well, your point is perfect. Nobody argued for proportional deaths among Germans or Japanese in World War II. The proportion of German civilians killed versus, let's say, American or British civilians it was what is it, 1,000 to 1, 10,000 to 1 vis-a-vis American civilians. It's not there were no American civilians, so to speak of, who were killed. And while there was bombing of Britain, it's incomparable to the bombing of Germany. But people didn't speak that way. They said, Hitler, Nazis, you surrender, we stop bombing. And that's what Israel has said over and over. Hamas, you surrender, we stop bombing. But, look what's happening now at Eurovision, that annual competition of songs from, musicians from, 40, 50 countries. And Israel has been included. And the Israeli woman who was singing there, it's in Malmo in Sweden this year. The Israeli woman was told by the Israeli security people, the Shin Bet, don't leave your hotel except when you're going to perform. And when she rehearsed, thousands and thousands of young people booed her. The brainwash of young people around the world should scare people. These are truly moral idiots, useful idiots for a bad. Greta Thunberg wears a keffiyeh. I mean, I knew that she was a fool because of her incomprehensible ravings about climate change, but it's not surprising. She knows as much about the Middle East as I do the Swedish language. But that's it doesn't matter. You don't have to know anything. You have to believe. I mean, the lie, this gigantic lie of genocide. But there are 5 times as many Palestinians today as when Israel was created. It's the least effective genocide in the history of the world. The term was developed to explain what the Germans did to the Jews in World War II, and now this is being used against the Jews. Why doesn't the world just demand that Hamas surrender? It'll end everything. It's over. That's it. Let them surrender. And proportionality. So let's say Israel burns alive 12 Palestinian families, rapes X number of Palestinian women. Is that proportional? What does proportionality mean? I don't even know what it means, let alone that it's morally absurd.